Welcome to the Goshen News Sports Prep Roundtable. I'm Prep Sports Coordinator Greg Keim, and with me is fellow sports writer Stephen Brooks. And we have another special guest in the studio with us today. We have Mr. Dave Harms, who is the athletic director at Northridge High School. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Good, good. And we just wanted to call you in today and chat a little bit about how things are going at Northridge High School this fall. First of all, you have a tennis team playing for a boys sectional championship tonight.
Yeah, we do, and you're never quite sure, and we're a relatively young team. We only have a couple seniors on the squad, and you're not sure how they're going to react. But the guys have started to play better, and they've worked at it, and who knows what could happen tonight.
Who knows? Yes, Stephen, you're covering that for us tonight. What was your impressions of the Northridge team?
I thought it was interesting that talking with Coach Atkinson, that he said that it kind of played out just like he thought in terms of at least their strengths being this Northridge strengths being the singles. They won all three of those, and I mean mathematically, if you can ride those three, you're gonna win. So I thought that was probably a good thing for them to feel like something is a strength and to really execute that. And I believe he said that you guys played both of them, either Memorial or Central or Concord in the regular season, so he knew pretty much what to expect sort of coming into today. So that'll be interesting, in a rematch setting. And it's always interesting.
The nice thing of it is that you get a chance for redemption if you did lose or if you did type thing. And now's the time to be playing your best tennis, and it looks like we've kind of gradually built towards that point. So that's a good thing too.
Yeah, and tennis is other sports. You never know what can happen once you get into the postseason.
No, and you don't. And I mean, it's a team, individual type sport where you can have an individual continue, but the team stays
Right.
home, or vice versa. And the neat thing of it is, it's one of those sports like you just said. You never know exactly what's going to happen.
You never know. Yeah. The other thing is unique about tennis. I came and ran across this last night. I was thinking about this. Tennis is, I think, the only sport that the ISHA does not conduct the draws down at the state. They let each individual school do the tennis sectional draws.
Yeah,
And I'm just curious as to why that is.
I don't know. I guess it's been that way since I've started doing it. So I'm not sure exactly why the state figures it that way. I guess it's kind of nice because with the four conference, counting, there's three conference schools plus Elkhart Central in our sectional, and the nice thing of it is we all see each other relatively often. So let's just have a quick draw, and it's and we've never had a problem with it. So I guess that's a good thing too.
I'm not saying it's a problem. It just seems kind of funny to me.
It's just different. Yeah.
Like last year, Goshen was at a football sectional with Concord, Elkhart Memorial, Elkhart Central. I mean, those schools are all within like 20 miles of each other. But yet they conduct the draw down at the state off.
Well, and I mean, they emphasize the blind draw and that type of thing, and it's just been interesting. In fact, we had our draw on Monday at our IIA meeting where all of us were there. We had a total stranger kind of come over. We had all the things folded over, and we picked them out, and that was our blind draw, so it worked out.
Yeah, it does. It works out. It just seems strange to me. The other thing I wish they would do with tennis is if they're going to try to insist that schools have their sectional championships on Friday, so they can have Saturday as a possible rain delay, so they don't run into next week in the regionals. I wish they'd get back to make all sectionals like 4 teams.
And that would be nice because it puts a lot of pressure on the host schools as well as what's going on as far as, if you got a Friday night, you are the host. That puts a lot of pressure on you because if you're hosting a football game as well,
right?
I mean, now you got, and people say, well, the administrative of that isn't that big, but it really is when you're working with, you got to get a football game ready, you also got to get a sectionals championship ready. So that would be nice if they went back to that.
Yeah. Speaking of football, you guys have a big game tomorrow night. You're hosting the Goshen Redskins.
And it is going to be a big night. It's going to be a fun night. It's our homecoming, so it's going to be one of those where the stands will be full, and it'll be a fun atmosphere to be around. And right now, both football teams are playing very well. Good football.
Right. You guys are coming off probably your best season in school history of last year when you finished 11-3, and you ended up in the Northern Semi-State game before you got knocked out of the tourney by New Prairie. You graduated a lot of players from that team. Did you envision having this kind of success coming back this year with newer kids?
Well, I think a lot of people kind of thought we wouldn't, but the guys are starting to learn how to win, and the atmosphere has changed a little bit. And when that happens, then it's one of those things where it's not a situation where you're hoping to win. You're kind of expecting to win, and you're going into every contest with that thought in mind.
Right. And that's one of the things Kyle Park keeps talking about at Goshen, about changing the culture of the program, getting kids used to being, expect to win games when they go into them on Friday nights.
Well, and that's the thing I've noticed, and the biggest difference in watching Goshen and seeing what they're doing. He's doing an outstanding job of getting the kids to believe in what they want to try to accomplish, what they want to do, and that's the key to, I think, any sport. If you bring the head, the body will follow.
Right.
And I think a lot of that part is mental.
Mm-hmm. Stephen, you've seen Northridge play this year, haven't you?
No.
Oh, you haven't seen them either? I'm looking forward to seeing them tomorrow night. It'll be my first chance to see you guys play. One of the things that's impressed me from reading the other stuff is you lost your starting quarterback in week 2 or 3?
We lost Nick at our Plymouth game, and we lost him early in that game. And you got to make a lot of adjustments when your starting quarterback goes down, and all of a sudden different people have to step up. And Matt Miller has done an outstanding job of stepping in and gaining confidence each week as he goes along. And as a senior, you hope that he can do that, and he's done that very well.
Had he played much quarterback before? I know he was listed in the roster as a wide receiver.
He was a backup quarterback in previous years. He played it as a sophomore, but that's a long time removed. 2 years later, now all of a sudden you're back in that role.
Yes, yeah, it is. And things have probably changed a little bit in the offense and things, so he's probably had some learning to do.
Yeah, it's a learning curve, and Matt's learning every week, and you hope that he falls into it and gets it going.
One of the things that Tom pointed out to me this week when I talked to him is he said, not only is Matt gaining confidence in his position, the kids are gaining confidence in him too, as a leader on the team.
And that's the thing that's always important, where you're kind of hesitant. You lose the guy that you had looked to as being your leader, and now all of a sudden Matt's stepping up and saying, okay, Matt, it's your turn, it's your opportunity to be the guy. And and it's the making the pass at the right time, making the handoff at the right time, doing the right things that way, and he's coming around. So that's a good thing.
It's kind of like a philosophy a lot of teams have, like next man in.
And I think the Ohio State Buckeyes kind of typified that last year. I mean, everybody would have said at the beginning of the year, well, the Ohio Buckeyes are going to be so-so because they lost their starting quarterback, who was a Heisman candidate and who was supposed to be all-world. They lose him before the season even starts. Quarterback comes in. They lose him in the last ball game of the year, and the third quarterback basically comes in and leads them to the national championship. So, I mean, they set the tone, and you got a great example this year of a school relatively close, and that's Notre Dame. I mean, they lose their quarterback. Same weekend we lost ours, and very similar type injuries. And so it's one of those kind of things where, okay, the next guy got to be ready to go.
Yeah. What is the prognosis on Nick? I mean,
he had surgery last Friday. Now it's kind of wait and see and how things go. it was very serious. It was a lot of pins in his foot. Put it that way.
Ooh, that sounds painful.
Yeah, but if there's a young man that's dedicated and going to come back and fight through it, it'll be Nick.
Good thing he's got, what, 2 more years? He's a sophomore,
Yep,
correct?
he's only a sophomore.
Yeah, that's one good thing about him. He's got 2 more years to handle the position there.
Yeah, and not only was Nick a football player, but he was a basketball player. I mean, last year everybody talked about, and Peyton did a great job because he was a starter in all 3 of our sectional winning teams last year.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, Nick Hooley was on all those teams as well. He was our backup quarterback last year as a freshman. He was he dressed for our sectional on our sectional roster in basketball, and he was a starter in baseball on our sectional championship team. So as a freshman, he's kind of already got some of those experiences, which now he can draw on that, and hopefully we're hoping that he might be back in time for baseball. Who knows?
Be good if he could, yes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Your boys' soccer team is going through some transition this year with following the retirement of long-term coach Todd Woodworth.
Yeah, and I mean, Lawrence Baltazar has done a great job because he was with Todd for 17 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, he knew Todd, he knew but it is a change, and you know, the first change is making it Lawrence's team, making it Lawrence Baltazar's team,
Yes.
rather than Todd Woodworth type team. And you know, you got the challenge of every day you go to practice, you're going to Todd Woodworth Field. I mean, you know, so
Yes.
that in itself is you know, a challenge, because and Todd's been at the home games and doing those kind of things. So you feel like, okay, he's kind of looking over your shoulder, but at the same time, the guys have done a nice job with that. But there's a learning curve there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Your girls' soccer team's had a pretty good season again, too.
Bill Redinger does a great job with that.
He does do a good job with them. Yes.
And we're tonight we're playing basically for the conference championship. We're playing down in Warsaw, and Warsaw's undefeated in the conference. We have 1 tie in the conference. Concord has 1 loss and 1 tie. So basically, it comes down to tonight's game. If we can beat Warsaw, we're conference champs. And Warsaw goes in second, and Concord comes in third. If Warsaw gets us, then there's a first and a tie for second.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned blind draws earlier. It's unfortunate. Probably the 2 best teams in the local girls soccer sectional at Concord, Northridge and Goshen, are going to be facing each other in the first game of that sectional.
Yeah, I mean, and that it seems. You always say, they always tell you it's a blind draw, but sometimes you wonder, come on, how can this happen? And for years, it was up until the last few years when we went to a different sectional, or actually Plymouth went to a different sectional. It seemed like every year we drew Plymouth in before it even, you know.
Yeah.
And okay, where are you going to go? Well, we're either going to go to Plymouth or Plymouth's coming here, type thing. And it seemed like, until they left the sectional, it was almost a guarantee. That's who we draw. And you say, okay, how many times out of a blind draw does that happen? But hey, yeah, it is what it is.
I still think I much prefer the blind draws rather than trying to seed the sectionals.
Well, I think it'd be extremely hard. And what do you base it on? I mean, because everybody plays non-conference, and do you include the non-conference, and
right.
Then, okay, how do you compare a school, for example, that plays in the NIC and plays Penn and plays Mishawaka, plays all those two, and then they're in our league. I mean, are in our level. Their record may not be the same as ours, but they haven't played. We haven't played the same people they have, and vice versa.
Right. Stephen, you're from Michigan. Do they do blind draws up there, or do they seed them?
Yeah, no, it's essentially the same blind deal. I'm trying to think if anything is, you know, you've got individual wrestling seeding, you know, eventually, but other than that, I don't think they do seating in almost anything, and I know there's been a lot of arguments made for it. I understand how incredibly difficult it would have to be, and I don't even know if at the sectional level it would really work. But I think for other sports it does make a lot of sense. Maybe when you're talking about like the final 16 left or something, something like that. But yeah, even up there, we run into this case a lot of time where in football, your second or third round, first or second round game are two of the top teams in the state by far. Have been top five all season and stuff. And no one really likes to see that happen because, you potentially have, the state championship, the second week of the playoffs, essentially, and in some cases, or what would equate to, the two best teams. So I think there's a lot of good things that could come from it, but I understand what a nightmare it probably would be to actually implement. So
Yeah.
that's where we're at.
If you go solely on record, that would be about the only way you could do it, as well as, the rankings throughout the state. But as an AD, sometimes it wouldn't be bad if we could have the rankings go out that way, or be ranked, because then it could guarantee, for example, if it was going to be us in Goshen and we're the top two teams, it would sure be nice that, okay, in the sectional final, we're the two teams playing, because, well, as an AD, that's going to bring the people in. And,
Right.
And that's going to be, that's your bread line. I mean, if you get the people to come, that helps. And sometimes when you have that big game, the first one, and whoever wins that one, everybody kind of says, well, it's a foregone conclusion that they'll be the sectional champs, and all of a sudden your crowds go
way down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you're scrambling to try to get funds to cover other things, aren't you?
Right.
Okay. Another team that is having a good season for you is your volleyball team under the direction of Jody Steele.
Yeah, Jody's done a nice job, and volleyball's coming on. That's another one of those sports where if you're on a night, it can make a big difference, and it's kind of a even flow, and in this area you got to be ready to play, and you got to compare yourself to Elkhart Memorial, and if you're going to play, you got to go after them, and you got to put yourself in position to beat them. And this year, with Penn coming into our sectional, it'll be interesting, and we're at Penn they host the sectional, so now you got Elkhart Memorial, you got Penn, you got Elkhart Central, you got Goshen, you got Concord.
Yes.
And so it becomes a very competitive sectional.
Yeah. Speaking of Elkhart Memorial, did you see the score of their first set the other night with Fairfield?
No, I did not.
Fairfield beat them 38-36 was the score of the first game. I don't think I've ever seen a volleyball score that high before.
Well, all I can say is thank goodness for rally scoring. Otherwise they might have been there all night.
Yes, they might have. Well, they might have been at that rate. I don't know.
Yeah.
38-36. That's pretty high, though.
Yes, it is. And we had a contest against East Noble, and we played all three levels in the same gym one. And we thought, okay, we're starting it at 5 o'clock. We should be fine. Every single match went. The freshmen went 3, and they went 25-23, 25-24, 15-13. JV went 3 matches, same type of thing. Varsity only went 4, but we started at 5. I walked out of the gym at 11:15, and it was continuous play, and it was good. It was good competition, but it's one of those you're going, oh, I would hate to have thought about that without rally scoring. And when my daughters were in school, it came into play when my daughter went into high school, but before that, sometimes it was very trying to watch a volleyball game.
Yes, it was. I remember some of those games. Okay. And your girls golf team has concluded their season.
Yeah, we had a young team, and we had some people step up, do some nice things. We had basically a regional qualifier, which was nice, and it's nice that, okay, she got 3 years to improve on too.
There you go. There you go. And two of your other better programs in the fall are your cross country teams. They're getting ready for the conference meet this week out at Oxbow Park on Saturday.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. Again, the team to compete with, and Warsaw comes in very strong, and Goshen has a strong group. It's cross country is a very competitive sport. I do know this. My cross country coach says make reservations down at state, so that's a good thing.
There you go. It's good when he's got that confidence in the team, isn't it?
Well, and it's kind of weird because when I first came here 9 years ago, they said I got introduced to the cross country coaches, and I was talking to them, and they said, "Hey, one thing you got to do is you got to make reservations." And I go, "Well, reservations to where?" And they said, "We got to make reservations down at Terre Haute because that's where state's at." And I looked at them, and without thinking, I said, "Well, guys, first we got to get there." And they said, "Well, that's a given. So just make sure make sure you got reservations." I said, "All right," and they haven't disappointed. I've made reservations every single year. So,
yeah. Two groups of athletes that you guys do a tremendous job producing over at Northridge are cross country runners and swimmers.
Yeah, and it seems like that was the other sport that told me, okay, you better be prepared to travel a little bit. And I'll never forget my first conversation with Joe Keller. He goes, "How much do you know about swimming?" And I said, "Well, I know you got to be in the water." And he said that's good. And I said that's probably about the extent. And I've learned a lot about swimming.
I bet you have.
And that it is fun to be around those kids and see the athletes and the expectations. And that goes back to what we talked about with football and that type of thing, expecting to have success.
Right.
And they talk about that, they preach that, and it's kind of trickling down, and everybody talks about it.
Okay. All right. Stephen, do you have any more questions for Dave?
I guess just one thing. I noticed you guys are pretty active on social media just in terms of pumping out scores and info and whatnot. Do you do that personally, or just, and what kind of, just real quick, what kind of sort of benefits, I guess, do you see from that, from putting that effort in?
Well, the one nice thing we see, it comes from basically the athletic office. It's if who's ever at the event, we have an account. We can all tweet it. We can all put it in, and we have what is called our press box, which goes right into our internet. We type it up, boom, we can click it out. It automatically goes out to all the papers, and the TV stations, and the whole bit. So that helps. And the nice thing about it as well is you can make changes, and I can get you an alert. Like if you're on our web page, let's say tonight it would start to rain about 4:30, 4:45. I can put an alert out, okay, the tennis match has been moved to this date or this time. And everybody will get that alert that's on our webpage, which that's probably been the biggest thing. And we're trying to go as much paperless as we possibly can, which we found to be beneficial. The parents like it because now they can, it's kind of a one-stop shop. They can go, they can see the schedule, they can see the results, and then they can go from there. And so that's probably helped us the most.
Good.
Cool.
Good. Okay, well, thanks for coming in this week, Dave. We appreciate that. And one thing before I forget, I need to congratulate Mr. Ryan Funkhauser, the former Fairfield football player who is now coaching over in Angola, that correctly answered our trivia question last week, saying that Jamie Matthews of Fairfield scored 7 touchdowns in a football game. So he correctly answered it, and he will be getting a Goshen News coffee mug in honor of that. So, folks, that'll conclude another edition of the Goshen News Prep Sports Roundtable. We will see you next week.
Thanks for having me.